Hello and welcome to Stampscaping Live on a Friday night here. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a scene on 6 by 10, and this is a semi-gloss cardstock here. Let's see here. I just lost, oh, here's my comments window. Okay, so I have been doing a lot of scenes so far with the new Mystic series in fairly light conditions like this, okay? Daytime. And what I want to do is I envision these being used in nighttime scenarios too. And I want to try something like that. I just did this scene last night. And I just did a little hole punch cutout for my moon. And I thought maybe we can do something like that today here. I'm thinking about this scenario like 5 minutes ago. Okay, I didn't plan it out or anything like that, but that's what I have in mind. Something like this, but in a darker value scheme to represent night and, this kind of mystical type of, imagery and whatnot. I think it would look, potentially interesting in a nighttime situation. The night has its own kind of atmosphere and kind of emotional qualities. So I thought we can do things with a little bit more of a shimmery type of texturing, maybe even some crystals or something like that used. I don't know if my Wink of Stella pens are still usable or not, but little shimmery touches with this type of thing. But just on your standard cardstock. I've been doing all kinds of things with photographs and, I don't know, different types of papers. And once in a while, you just got to get back to some just white cardstock for the most malleable, surface you can have, because you can turn this into, put this in any direction you want. Hello, Diana. Hello, Sandy. How are you? Hope you had a nice week this week. Diana, I hope everything's kind of coming around a little bit, and a little bit of improvement at each week, or kind of figuring out how you're compensating for that and whatnot with the voice. I don't know. Is your voice might be might be as gravelly as mine is right now, or has always been. Okay, so this is a pretty big piece right here. I figured, let's just go a little bit bigger. I've been doing these scenes for the past few days that are quick card scenes, just for, some easy stamp-along pieces, 20-minute types of cards. Hello, Janet. And you are live this time. Janet posted on one of those quick cards. Hello. So I responded, hello. But it was a pre-recorded one. Okay, so we're going to build this one from the bottom up. I guess that's the way I've been working with these pieces, from the bottom up. I can't remember if I've done one from the top down. Maybe that one where it's just all waterfalls I did. I don't remember. Okay, so let's see. This is the boulders with lichen. I'm going to stamp all this out with StazOn because I'm going to use my watercolor pencils on this. I've broken out some of my blue tone ones in addition to black. I figured, I've been using grayscale for most of my watercolor experiments so far. Okay, so if you haven't watched my other videos, I haven't been doing like any watercolor types of media applications, basically ever. Okay, so I've been practicing a little bit with them over this last month. Just some real kind of minor, minimal types of things, but using watercolor pencils, okay? Not using a brush and, tube watercolors or anything like that. I don't even know if I have those anymore, but I might have some from like college. In which case they'd probably be all dried out in the tubes. All right, so a little bit of a foreground right here. I might put a little figure on here later on. I'm not sure. Okay, so we're going to build this up using the Mystic trees left and right. I wanted to leave plenty of room on this one for imagery. That's why I went a little bit bigger here. Hello, Kay. Hello, Bonnie. Hello, anyone else that might be watching live here, or anyone in the rewatching of it. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Nighttime scenario for anyone just kind of logging on here. Using the Mystics type of things. I've been wanting to do kind of a darker scenario anyway, but I've been keeping it fairly light just to keep, you know, because it's like, first of all, it's like super easy to do, like having a bunch of clouds in between everything. But some of the pieces that I've referenced in not only designing these stamps, but just, you know, looking at some, you know, trying to figure out some different scenarios to stamp them out in. Some of them are, you know, they're pretty dark. They don't always represent night. In fact, I don't know if any of them did, but I like nighttime scenarios in my scenes, you know, quite a bit. I don't know, I just like, I don't know, I'm a night owl anyway, but I want these pieces, I don't know, I want to see these pieces in a different scenario here, a different, you know, lighting scenario, basically. And I think I'm up to the challenge now. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't practiced with the watercolors a lot, and sometimes I'm doing so many different techniques these days. If I don't do something for like a week or something like that, or 2 weeks, if I didn't do it very much to begin with, I don't know, I kind of forget how to do it already, and I'm not quite starting off at square one, but I don't know, I feel like I am sometime. Okay, right side, Mystic trees right here. So we're creating this kind of this real kind of serpentine S-curve type of thing. And that type of thing like this, where you're going back and forth like that, creating this visual path. That's, you know, that's like a little fun little thing. You know, I mentioned this in previous videos, but when you create these little corridors and things like that, or it doesn't have to be a corridor like that, it's like a visual path or a road or something like that. If you just have these little subject matters or little points of interest that kind of create a visual path, so when someone looks at your piece, they're doing this type of thing. It's like, you know, it's like, I don't know, you can see yourself as like like a roller coaster designer or something like that, you know. And you're creating the visual ride for someone to go on. So you're creating these visual paths. And like I said, it might be just little landmarks. It doesn't have to be this formal little kind of thing running through, you know, a pathway. But, you know, that type of thing where someone's kind of moving around a little bit like that, you know, it makes it a little bit more interesting potentially to do something like that. Like I said, it's not, you know, we're not working on big pieces, but even on small little things, you kind of keep them going around in some kind of, you know, visual direction. It's, you know, it's a little bit more potentially entertaining for them, you know, and it's all taking place within a few seconds, you know, when they look at a piece too. So something to consider. Okay, let's see. Hello, Verna. All right. So now I'm getting into, these are all isolated right here. Now I'm going to get into a couple pieces that are probably going to be in the distance. So the foreground should look like it's kind of overlapping the distant area. So what I've been doing is I've been stamping these types of images out lighter in the background. But this is going to be a nighttime scenario, so I'm not quite sure what color to do it, you know, what value to do it in. If I should just go black, or if I should, you know, wipe off a little bit of it before stamping it out. Now I've tapered this off where it's darker up here and it gets lighter down here for this very purpose, so... And maybe I'll just go straight. For anyone, I always mention this, but for anyone that might be logging into this live stream for the first time, not all of these videos on the channel are kind of instructional. A lot of them are more kind of explorational, where I'm just kind of figuring things out as I go and making the decisions as I go. But, for the kind of more instructional, step-by-step process ones, you want to go to the, or maybe check out the stamp along videos or the quick scenes. All right, where I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit more instead of winging it. Hopefully everyone's winging it, a lot too, or periodically. If you're following like my stuff, it's a good way to learn things. If there's something that happened to come out that you liked, kind of in one of these more kind of experimental types of videos. If you're kind of working on pieces and you either periodically or frequently feel kind of uncomfortable with something, that's a good way to be, because that means we're breaking out of our kind of comfort zones. And, in the spirit of learning and exploration, etc. For me, I happen to be doing it live, which isn't necessarily a great idea if someone's kind of, they're already kind of a little bit, they're worried about trying to try something out. And if I try something out, it's like, oh my God, I'm not sure if that worked out or not, then they get worried, that, the person that created these things shouldn't be feeling that way. But I don't know. I definitely see that as a good thing. I want everything to, happen to flow and come out, really easily. And I want it to turn out, of course. But, if it doesn't, so I've set myself up really well in this video in case this doesn't come out. Okay, so I did this thing the other day, speaking of kind of testing things out a little bit, with this waterfall type of scenario, and I think I'm going to do that same type of thing. I'll have a little bit of a waterfall or cascading falls coming out from from in between these mountains here. And okay, now I need to leave room for my my moon, which I seem to have lost here. I did a little hole punch right here, and I'm going to put a round orb up in my sky. And it's probably underneath my... Where did it... Oh, here we go. Okay, so here's what I need to leave room for in here. Okay, so something like this. All right, anyways, speaking of that waterfall, what you do is you take your Mystic Hills mountains, okay? And you just leave a little bit of a gap in between. I can go with the larger one right here and maybe the smaller one right behind it, and then the waterfall would be coming in between those two. Let's do that, because I'm already way up here, and I don't want to put this moon like right on the edge up there. So, I need to leave a little bit more room for it. I guess it could be rising from in back of the mountains too. That actually might be kind of interesting. Let's see how it goes here. What's the size and kind of paper? Bonnie, it is a 6-inch by 10-inch. Usually when it gets to like a dimension this size, it's like a little, oftentimes it's a half page, but I wanted to go for a little bit more space in this. So I can have more room for additional imagery instead of it being cramped. I was thinking about, I want to kind of, throw in the kitchen sink in this one in terms of little types of touches here and there. Okay. And I really want to work on my shadow techniques using some watercolor paints, so I figured, oh, having a little bit more space might be good, just so I'd have more area to fill in. Not necessarily because, I think it's great for the composition, but it's just, you know, I'll be able to work on my transitions, more with this, since, it's going to be, this one's going to be this initial type of practice for me in terms of a kind of a darker scenario with watercolor paints. So, the darker scenario for me on this one, it's going to be a moon type of thing instead of day. Okay, I'm looking for this moon could go, I think right over here, huh? You could have it come in like right dead center too, like something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think I might like it a little bit more rule of thirds, like coming out from like over here, something like that. But yeah, both scenarios are kind of, will be a little bit different for me on this one. Not by a huge, margin, I don't think. But I've done those watercolor pieces kind of, a little bit kind of, I don't know. Careful's not the word, but and I've been doing like kind of sparser applications with the watercolor pencils, just because I don't know how to blend them and how to transition them really well, you know. So I've been doing a little bit, kind of minimal applications with that. Okay, so here's the Tiny Rock Small. Okay, this is going to kind of give me a nice head start in terms of some textural additions with the colored pencils. I just find that this thing really works for me on things like roads, when it represents like rocks on a road. This just is representing, the shoreline here and, potentially seeing some of the rocks under the water maybe. Whatever it might represent, when you have like super clear water, you can see, down to the, the base. But this is also kind of using things like this and grasses and texture forms. I think over this last, I don't know, just like in the last few months, I'm using these a lot more. I mean, I did it in the past, but I'm using it more to add that kind of I don't know, the striations and toning in my scenes, before I even get to color additions. So like they're textural additions that just give me a really nice head start, I'm finding. And when you add that type of texture down there, okay, here's the thing too. When you add these types of textures in here, so if this was like a grassy meadow in between here, something like that, and you're adding like grassy little textures in here, if you don't have all that down there, then you have to be a little bit, kind of more precise with your color blends and additions and transitions, because it sits there like, very upfront, when we're doing these types of shading and, color addition, shadow creation types of touches. But when you already have this texture down here, you don't have to be as smooth with it because it doesn't show, because you have the texture already on there. So it's kind of nice for that. Okay, so let's see. I'm wondering if I should go with one more little distant mountain in the background here, like that. I don't want to go too high with it because I don't want to have this mountain up higher, than the moon. I don't know, I guess there could be some clouds or something like that in here, and this could be represent just a, mountain like farther off in the distance. But let's do that here. But let's do that in a small, a lighter impression maybe. So let's go like this, and then I'm gonna go like this with this ripped paper towel, and then we'll go with another, just a little bit of a layer in the background like that, okay? And let me do even one more here. I don't know if this will stamp out at all. I can usually get 3 impressions or 4 with dye-based inks, but with the stays on, who knows? Yeah, okay. You can get that. So see, that moon will go right here. Okay, so we'll have a little bit of these kind of mountaintops reflecting some of that light in that area. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to put on here. I was thinking about maybe putting that little pavilion onto. I've done that before on another scene, and it became kind of a nice focal point. Now, if I add this right here, I don't know if I would. I guess I can add like a little fisherman or someone in a boat right here. But see, without this right here, I can still add something like right here in terms of a, visual anchor point, like a little fishing boat like that. But if I have this one right here, what that would be saying is that this is like a garden ornament or something like that and really small, okay? Because this, would have to be much closer to us here if that's like a full size, walk underneath pavilion, okay? So, I mean, I can decide later too, but here's this. This is going to be like a little nighttime type of scenario too. So I thought if I put like a little boat in here, maybe they can have like a little lantern or something like that on the boat. I wanted something in this scenario to be illuminated a little bit. So I don't know if I do little lights around this or something like that. Or here's a little sailboat like this. Yeah, this can be in here somewhere. Maybe that's too big. Maybe like this one right here. Oh, let's see, it would be going this way. So if he's going this way, maybe down here. Yeah, maybe I'll have him kind of going like that. So this will create this little diagonal dynamic right here. I'm looking for these little focal points in the scene. So if you have a moon, everyone's eye is going to go directly to this source of light, and if there's like animals or something like that in here, then people would go to that. Oh, speaking of that, maybe that would look cool. Instead of going with a fishing boat, put like a deer right here, with this reflective light in the background kind of illuminating it. Let's do something like that. Okay, so so my moon will go up here, so I need to make this area a little bit darker. And okay, this is a lot of area up here, so I'm thinking about just adding some dye inks up into this area. I think that's going to be faster than watercolors, and then I'll watercolor kind of the rest of the area. Or, I don't know, should we do both? Maybe I'm going to do a little bit of both here. This is a lot of area here. And I don't know if I should do everything in watercolors. These are kind of, dye-based inks are kind of known as like watercolor pens when they're in pen formats, so. Hello, bugs! Our weather is crazy here in Augusta. GA, the high is only going to be 62. Huh. Unheard of here. Are you usually in the 70s, Bonnie? For this time of year? Not 80s, right? I've only been to Georgia once, and that was to Lawrenceville at Angel Art. Was it Angel Art Rubber Stamp Store? Was that the name of the store? And I drove in on a October 31st because it was, I remember that distinctly because it was Halloween day. So I hit kind of quite a bit of traffic from the airport to Lawrenceville. And I was thinking, man, And the traffic's, starting up really early here. But a lot of people are getting off work early to go, go home, get to their kids, for, I guess trick or treating or something like that. There's my Georgia story. But one of the best rubber stamp stores, anywhere in the country, was there. I didn't teach that night. I taught the next day, but I think I might have set up that day. Oh, and they were also. It was like I was like closing down that store, not permanently, but that from that location they were moving to I guess a bigger location or something like that after that weekend or something like that. Okay, so kind of filling in, can you see what's happening right here in terms of the tones and everything like that? I'm being a little bit conservative here too because, a lot of this is going to be done with the watercolors too, but this is kind of, it's giving me a head start here, um, in terms of these additions here. And it is nice that these are done in stays on, so it's not, kind of blurring out on me. Not that dye-based inks would blur out if you give it time to dry, but in these live streams, I don't want to sit around waiting for this to dry, before I can start doing, using it. Oh, does everyone know what CHA is? Sorry, I went to the CHA show in Atlanta as well. That was the large. I bet you that was the largest, probably the largest crafting wholesale show ever. Because I remember someone's telling me that that went to a lot of shows, and I think they were on the committee or something like that. That was the largest one because they didn't have to turn anyone and went away because that convention center in Atlanta was just so immense, and it can, there was enough space for anyone that wanted to be there. And I was there with Ampersand Art. Verna's going to have great weather for the holiday weekend, first time in many years with no rain. Huh. High 88 and 90. What? That's the typical weather there that you have in late May. That's definitely a lot warmer than California. See, we're in June. We head into our June gloom, as they call it, period. Okay, now I almost forgot. I'm going to make that little waterfall here, I think. We'll see if I can do that. All right, so that's my little foundation right there. I just did it with London Fog, Memento, okay? I've left some areas illuminated. Maybe I should probably make those darker. Okay, see, I'm kind of doing this right now, like I've been doing it all along, but I think I need to, I need to come in further if this whole scenario is going to be darker. So, okay, let me be less, oh, I don't know, not sparse, but let's get a deeper amount of coverage here. If you just tuned in, this is going to be a nighttime scenario here, which I haven't done with these images like this yet. So this is going to be the one here, my first exploration. And it doesn't seem, in theory, that should be a big deal, for me, that I've always been doing. I've done a lot of nighttime scenes in my past, but these images here, the mystic line, kind of are images that are kind of, they're designed to where they're not supposed to be, or they can be connected up, but they're kind of like floating little islands that are their kind of communal bond is supposed to be like clouds and mist or something like that. So you see these things kind of isolated on their own little islands, surrounded by this, kind of, common texture or illumination. Okay, so keeping things lighter in that scenario, it's really easy to do and makes for some really quick and easy scenes. But I want to see this also in a different, I don't know, in a different light, so to speak. So the moonlight and just kind of darker in general. The gates of hell in the summertime. I haven't been like to Georgia. I've been to I've been to Florida in the summertime for that convention that they have there. I think it was in the summertime. Um, Anyone from Florida? What was that show around Orlando called? I think it's the same show that's still going on. And oh my gosh, I haven't thought about it in a while. I can't remember the name of that company that puts it on. I think it's the same person and company. Um, yeah, but that's the only time I've really felt that um, kind of degree of humidity before. I think I've been to some other areas that were really humid though. We used to travel a lot, doing different shows all around the country. Um, but yeah, I remember it being like super thick. And to me, not having been in that type of um, degree of humidity before, it's like everything kind of felt damp to me. I could feel the air, like even in my motel room. Okay, so colored pencil, black. Okay, so I'm gonna start toning these in, and if you haven't seen me do these before, a lot of times with mountaintops and types of structures, I usually go from the bottom. It's darker on the bottom and lighter on top because I have topside illumination coming in. So this one's going to be a moon up here. So you think, okay, at the top of the mountain peak, closer to the light source, is going to be lighter and get darker down here. But these ones are kind of different. They kind of go from dark to light. Like I said, to have these kind of clouds or this mist kind of illuminated and everything kind of becomes bottom lit. I mean, you don't have to do that, um, but it really makes for an easy kind of, um, I don't know, kind of process when you're doing it this way, I'm finding. That being said, one of the other things that I want to try, someone, I don't know, maybe someone's even here that did it, watching right now, but they stamped out these mountains in a dark background, but they stamped them out in white, which looked really cool. So it looked like these, mountains were kind of illuminated. Um, then there was like a fence below, and I think there was some deers and like in a meadow or something like that. But I thought, oh, okay, I need to try those in a reverse impression. The thing about that one though that was cool and interesting is, see, if you're doing these like in white, sometimes it might be interesting to stamp these also in white on dark. But they did it. They just had the background. They just had the mountains in white, and the other imagery was just in traditional black. I guess there was a horizon, with the sky up above, and they were all stamped in white. But the thing that got me was everything looked really integrated. Okay, when you're doing stuff like that, it's the integration of reverse imagery and positive imagery. I'm never quite sure how that's going to, you know, how that dynamic's going to, kind of harmonize with each other. But I don't know, it looked fine. I guess the mountains looked, maybe they were more snow capped or something like that. But it was really interesting for me. Oh, and someone else did this other thing too, using the mystic imagery. It was with the, oh, I didn't leave room for it. I was going to leave room for this tree like that, but they just had like this big sun behind it and a quote stamp. Okay, so this is like in black. They might have toned it in a little bit or something like that on the trunk. I'm not sure. And that was really cool too. So I saw those things on Facebook, and I thought, okay, I gotta do something with this mystic imagery, and the nighttime scenario was one of those things that I've been kind of waiting to to get around to. Okay, so see that right there? So I'm gonna be. I need to go even dark. I need to bring this down further, but I'm not quite sure how much more. Because we want to go reasonably dark for this. First of all, if I don't go dark enough, that moon's not really going to stand out very much. I need to go darker up here. I think I'll add in some more pigmenting, or not pigmenting, but dye-based ink up there. And one of the things I'm kind of forgetting here too with this color watercolor pencil is that I don't have to put it on very smoothly because I'm going to be going back into it with water and dissolving it anyway. So I don't know. I'm kind of using this right now like it's a colored pencil. Hello, Sam Hawkins. Waving back. Good night, Janet. Has anyone here, speaking of CHA, everyone know what that show is? The Craft and Hobby Association, and now it's called, is it called Create something, Shun, Creative Vision? No, I don't know. It's something like that. If you just logged on, we were talking about Georgia, and I was talking about one of the CHA shows there. And I made a comment that was like one of the biggest shows I've ever been to. There were these two convention halls. I mean, like significant ones, like almost like full-size convention halls, right? Of a major city. And I don't know if it was new or something like that, but they added on this other wing, which basically like doubled the convention floor area. And at the time, like everyone going to that show, or I don't know what it was, 80% of the pub, the attendees, not the vendors, okay, not the people that were displaying, but store owners basically, other businesses, whatever, suppliers, attending were mostly there for the paper arts community, scrapbook stores, everything like that, rubber stamp stores, okay? But that CHA, they didn't want to put all of us together in, the paper arts community because they said, okay, if everyone's on the paper arts are all in one building and kind of amassed together, then no one's going to go to the other areas, like whatever, the cross stitch and, other types of crafting hobbies that weren't as big at the time, okay? So they spread everyone out completely. So we might be, I think we might have been like 2 miles away from like the Ranger booth, okay? For the distress inks, Tim Holt stuff and all that type of thing. So, but one time I was demonstrating at this whole show for Ampersand Art. And by the way, I'm creating these shadows at the base of these different objects. Okay, not so much the mountains because they don't have this, they're not going into some surface down here. They're going into clouds. So right here, I'm creating this little bit of shading right here. And I probably don't need to be so precise with it, but because I'm going to put it into liquid form with this anyways. But I'm kind of transitioning this off so it's like this, and it's going down here. Okay. Oh, but anyways, I was taking a break, my first break of one of the shows, and I wanted to go see like the Marvy booth and things like that. You know, I use the Marvy things, and I wanted to see like the Ranger booth and and stuff like that. That's big in our industry. And we were the last row too of this one building, so just to get to the front of that room was like something. But I was walking at a brisk pace because I wanted to be able to get back to the booth, and I think I was walking at really a brisk pace, and for like 30 minutes before I even got over to the other thing. So I was estimating that was well over a mile away. But there was this big corridor in between these two buildings too, so it wasn't all just booths, but a lot of it was. So it was insane. Just the number of people. It was the scrapbooking industry that made it so big. If it was just stamping, it wouldn't have been nearly that big. But just scrapbooking, paper booths, thing like that. Everyone know, is Basil still around? Does anyone know what Basil is? That how you pronounce that? It's not Basil. It's Basil, right? That paper company. I haven't even heard that name said in a long time. But at that show, we were right next to them in the last row, and they were really big at the time. So I think they put them like on the far end. They didn't put us there because ampersand art or I was big, but that Basil, man, they were so busy there. All right, so anyways, that's what we're looking at right there, and I'm like nowhere near dark enough in this whole scenario here, right here. But when I start pulling all of my tones over, though, and going into those directions, it's going to start filling up. And what I'm going to have to be careful about doing is not toning all of that lighting out of there. But I want to get a decent amount of it done, though. So I think I'm going to be doing it in maybe two different applications just for a little bit more control, okay? Meaning I don't want to tone all that lightness out, so I'm going to be careful about doing that. And I think I'm going to get really light in here when I start using a lot of that media to pull into these areas, that watercolor medium, okay? So if I want to get it dark again, I'm going to have to go over the top of it again. So like 2 stages. I don't know if that's the way to do it, One of you here is probably thinking, or I don't know, multiples, if not all of you are thinking, wait a minute, hey, you don't use colored pencils or watercolor pencils that way. It's my way of kind of being safe, I think. Okay, so see these rocks down here? You kind of tone down in the base a little bit and leave the tops a little bit lighter. Like this is the scene. I mean, it can almost be like done. If this was just kind of one of those nighttime, daytime, types of scenarios. It's not too far off than these. This one has a little bit of tone to it because I've used the that surprisingly bluish tinge of a Memento in there. Okay, here's the thing I forgot. Okay, so this is going to be this waterfall. How did I do it last time? Right here. So, okay, so you just kind of create this little fall down here, okay? Like this, all right? I'm not going to make it too super apparent, okay? So you can, like this, you kind of just create a horizon for that. The top, I don't know if you can see that there. Actually, that's not very straight at all, but And then that's where the water is kind of coming down from. I think I made it a little bit too high up there. I'll get rid of it. But, and then you're going to come down like this, okay? But now the thing that you're going to define this with, don't work so much in that waterfall area with this pencil, but work the areas to the side of it, to each side of it, to define it. I did come up with streaks here. This is my first time doing it right here, but I don't know, it looks a little, it's a pretty weak, waterfalls there, but it was my first time doing it, so. One thing that occurred to me was I should have went a little bit darker to the sides of that fall. But again, I was kind of thinking about when I was doing that, I was thinking about the clouds kind of compensating for my weak, super weak watercolor kind of abilities. So I was thinking I'm just going to fill it in with a lot of cloudy textures in there and whatnot. But I was thinking, I should have went darker with it because it doesn't. It's not a strong kind of fall, type of area. I mean, I could still do it right here, like, come in here and make this like areas darker like that. But it's something that I definitely should have done initially. Okay, and then you just have that kind of, you don't have it going down in anything. It's just kind of going down kind of into the mist like that. So there you go. So you can do as many waterfalls as you want to. You can have it cascading like this one, like fall after fall. So you just position it in between, two mountain forms. And after I did this one, I thought I could do that with my other images, like tall rocks and I don't know if I'd do it with rocky peaks, but definitely the tall rock. And there's another one, tall rock with falls, but if you just position your mountain forms kind of with a little bit of gap in between them, you can do this between, a lot of different things out there. So, other things to try. You can even do like a little smaller falls. Not really fall, but you can use this rock like this, right? And there can be, this could be like a river coming down, and you kind of create these little, little trickles in between like this one. So this would be right here, and then this part would be over here, and just leave a little bit of gap in between, right? And then have some water kind of falling between those things like that. You can create this cascade up as far as you want it to go, which would be kind of cool. Creative vision, thank you. That's what I thought, but I think that sounds like a TV or like a online thing. Yeah. When I saw people talking about that show a few years ago, and I was thinking, what is that? I didn't realize that that was the CHA, new kind of incarnation of it. And then CHA previous to CHA was HIA, Home Hobby Industry Association or something like that. And ACCI, which I don't know what that stands for, Arts, Crafts, something. That was the Chicago show, but then HIA and ACCI, I think, merged, and that's when CHA was created, right? I know a lot of companies that went to both, but if any companies went to just one, it was usually HIA. Just because it was a lot bigger. And HIA, I think, was typically, if not always, out in the West. It was like in Las Vegas a lot, or Anaheim. It would move around a little bit, but there was a lot of Las Vegas in there. I knew a lot of vendors that did that show. And one of the things that occurred to me talking with them, my fellow vendors, I didn't go to that. I never went to HIA. I don't think, but they'd always seem to be coming back from that sick. They'd go there and they'd always get sick of that show. And I was thinking, well, you got like thousands of people coming in from all over the world, to go to that show. And if someone gets sick, it's once a year. They've already got their tickets. I was thinking, people, I don't think they're canceling out if they get oh my God, they got a runny nose or something like that, or a headache, because it was like I don't know, 4 or 5 day show, and they just went to it anyway. So you got all these, whatever ailments coming in from, around the world, literally, converging in this, this crowded space for several days. But I remember, anyone know Lee, limited edition rubber stamps? Lee Edwards. Yeah, I remember she was always getting sick there. Okay, this is black. We need to create this area up top that's going to be dark enough for that moon to even show up, okay? So, all right, I'm going to come right through here. I think it's going to put some of this watercolor back into solution, but let's just see how it goes. I'm trying to dry brush this in here, where it's not dragging out that watercolor too much, but it might be kind of inevitable. All right, so there is that, okay? And let's see. Here's my moon, I think. Oh, no, that one's not. That's not going to stand out enough, is it? Let's come in here a little bit more. All right, something like that, and it's going to get darker with the water added to the watercolor, pencil work. Okay, one of the things I wanted to do too was I thought about adding a little tinge of some colors, so I brought these out right here, the blue tones, and I don't know, let's try one of these in here just to get a little bit of a tinge. There's already a kind of a cool temperature kind of running in here just from the use of the Memento London Fog. Here, I'm done with this one right here. But let's add some of this blue in here, just, I don't know, just for a tonal change like that. I need to be careful with this one too, because these watercolors, unbeknownst to me, but probably known by all of you, you know what I mean? They get more intense when you add that water to it. Isn't that kind of weird how that works out, I'm not quite sure why that would be, what's happening with the medium, that things are become like darker or more intense when you add the water to it. You think it would kind of dilute it, if anything. All right, this pencil here is Spectrum Blue 32. Not that you need to know it. All right, so there's some blue in there like that. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Let's go with another one here. Prussian blue. Hey, there's one of my favorite colors right there. As far as I know, basil is still around. Okay. Does anyone have basil papers? I think that, I don't know, they made their own paper, right? Usually I tell people most companies don't make their own paper, but I would think a paper company probably does. Or I don't know, like recollections from Michaels. Maybe they have it manufactured. They give your specifications of what they want, maybe to some company, making it somewhere. But paper, and papers and paper mills. That's like a big, big process. I wouldn't be surprised if all paper companies in the crafting community are, they're branding papers, not actually manufacturing them. But with that basil, though, I thought, I doubt if they would have a mill somewhere, but maybe they were doing, their own, whatever, proprietary, paper formulas or something like that with some mill. But if they were doing it, if that was the case, and if they were working with a domestic company here in the U.S., I wouldn't be surprised if that company wasn't around anymore, and they would have had to have found a secondary source since then. There's so many companies like mills that have no longer around in the U.S. Both big and small ones. Like even the biggest ones are not around. I'm just looking here to see if this Prussian blue, how close this Prussian blue is to my Marvy pad Prussian blue. It looks quite a bit different, but the Prussian blue, they could be a different value, in terms of light and darkness. All right, so there we go with two tones of blue. I'm curious to see what this is going to look like when water is applied. Let's see how it goes here. So, in my mind, with this piece right here, I'm not saying it quite as much as I did like the first few, I don't know, a couple live streams of experimenting around with this, but the notion of don't screw this up is coming to mind a little bit. Just so you know what I mean? I don't fear that, but you know what I mean? I'm like anyone else. I want it to come out, but if it doesn't, I just think to, think to the notion that, it's all in the name of kind of the expansion of, whatever our, whatever frame of reference and learning and all that type of stuff. So, all right, let's see how this goes here. So one of the things I'm looking for is, if this is getting any darker. It really isn't. Maybe it's because I have I don't know, I have some of that ink underneath there, though. But I do want it to get looser, too, I thought I'd be getting a little bit, I thought I'd be getting a little bit darker. It doesn't seem to be. Maybe it's because I've been doing it so light in the past, such a light application of it, that it does get darker. I don't know. But now that this one's, fairly dark in here, maybe it gets lighter or something like that. Sue has it in her store. Okay, great, great. Hey Sue, oh, okay, so American Crafts picked them up then, right? So Basil, okay, so They were their own company before then, right? So American Crafts picked them up. Hey, I'm curious. Do you know when that happened though, too, with that I don't know, whatever. I'm assuming the acquisition or sale of Basel. I think at that okay, so when I was at that Atlanta show, CHA, that was probably in 2004, I'm guessing. Okay. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if that company, just in terms of kind of the hype and the feel of that booth at that show, if they weren't like right up there, top, I don't know, top 10, top five kind of hottest companies at that particular show that, that one. I'm not talking about every year, but certainly of that year that I was there. Um, Man, that booth was hopping. So a lot of my clients, were, they were rubber stamp stores. A lot of them were, scrapbooking and stamping too, but a lot of them were still just stamping stores. So I'm not quite sure if the stamp specific stores were carrying a lot of that Basel. But, I knew people that, scrapbookers though, and they were talking about Basel all the time. Like a lot of their layouts and stuff like that. I knew, scrapbooking instructors, a lot of their layouts I think were based around or built upon that Basel, different Basel foundations. All right, so adding these little ones in the background. Okay, so again, I'm trying to what I'm doing trying to do is I'm trying to kind of taper it in a very kind of textural way here too. So I'm not trying to keep things like super smooth, like going from dark to light down here. I want it kind of, like cloudy looking, with a lot of variation here. So I'm doing a little bit of both. So sometimes I'm just dipping in my water here and I'm wiping off a little bit and then coming from the base up like this, okay? Now sometimes I'm bringing this tone from the top down and dragging out some of that watercolor pencils that's been applied up there, but I don't know, it's it's not like I said, I haven't been doing this for very long, so I'm finding that with each one that I'm doing, it's a little bit less of a struggle, kind of getting those transitions out. Because what I was doing at first was just dragging everything around. It's like, oh my God, everything's got like getting really dark, and that's when I started doing just the clean brush, from the clean area into the watercolor, marks or whatever watercolor, whatever applied media, dry applied media like that. So that's what I'm doing a lot more now, and I have so much more control over it now, uh, kind of in a beginner's way. Okay, so here comes those little transitions right here that I want to be careful that I don't fill up all these areas. And we want to keep some of that reflected light going, or whatever, present. Okay, let's see. They were on their own, but about 8 years ago. Yeah, I tell you that, like I said, what was it, like 2004? So almost like even like 20 years ago. Whew. I don't know how big they were, but that hype around that company, they were big. It was like, I don't know if I went into their booth or not, um, when they were next to us. I don't know if they were right next to us, but they were definitely in our row. But yeah, it was hopping. I probably didn't go in there. I didn't go into booths that were just too busy, you know, because I don't want to get in people's way, you know. Um, not being a buyer, you know, or something like that, a customer of theirs. So I don't want to, you know, take up room in there. But whew, it was so insane. Those were the days. Fun stuff. So, Sue, do you go to Creativision, Creativation, yeah, not Vision. That's where, okay. I had to read CM up there. Yeah, Creativation. Yeah. I don't know. Has anyone gone to Creativation here? Those were interesting shows because there weren't like super definitive trends or anything like that that I can remember. There might have been things that are going on like in booths that I was kind of unaware of, but except for one show, at one show in Anaheim, I'm guessing around 2006 or 7 maybe, in Anaheim. I think that was the one. It was all cupcakes everywhere. Cupcakes everything. I don't know if there was like a make and take cupcake decorating things, but there was like cupcake stamps, cupcake, I don't know, stencils, stickers. And I was kind of out of the loop, so I was thinking, what is going on with the cupcakes? Because it was kind of weird for me to see that type of like super specific, like subject type of trend, you know. I don't know. I guess that was at the time when like I don't know. There were like several reality TV shows going on that were all about cupcakes too. I think there was like 3 or 4 you know, TV shows based around cupcakes. All right, so I think that is about it. I should really get darker than this, you know? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so here's what I'm really comfortable with kind of right now. It's darker than my other ones, but it's almost still too light for moonlight, huh? I really need to make this all darker right here, I think, to bring attention like down here, maybe. Okay, so here, okay, so I need to do this here. And I'm wondering if I should just add in more uh, watercolor here, or if I should just, you know, just tone it out like this. You know, just to mute the lightest of areas, I should say. Okay, you know, because it's not like daylight or something. I don't want to make it too dark, but dark enough to where it at least kind of represents moonlight a little bit more, or I don't know, kind of a darker scenario a little bit more. I'm noticing too, one of the things that I'm noticing with this is that I don't think this watercolor pencil is going into solution as much when applied kind of in a thicker manner. I don't know. Does anyone know that? Because when I apply it, maybe when I apply it real lightly and use a little bit of, like I said, a little bit more of a minimal kind of application of it, it really seems to get quite a bit darker. But right here, like I see like some textural marks on here. Okay, now that one went back into solution, but like up in here, it's not getting too dark on me. Or it's not coming out of that texture too much. All right. So here we go like that. The falls, I don't know. I shouldn't leave it stark white like that. Or maybe I should hit it with a little bit of a, if I come in here with my brush work, I don't want to lose it all. I might have more control going up into that with my, just with some colored pencil or, watercolored pencil again, just hitting that raw. Here, let me hit that a little bit lighter. Yeah, I guess that looks okay like that. Just doing like a really light application. Maybe that's too light. Let me hit it like that again. Okay, here. And the top, I'll kind of, I don't want that real definitive line up there, but, kind of roughly like that, so. All right, so those are the waterfalls right here, okay. All right, so let's get our bearings and see if this is going to, how this is going to look up here. I should hit that with a little bit of tone too. That might be too stark of a white up there. I don't know. Let's do something like this. Now this is just copy paper. Maybe I should do it on a better piece of paper, but let me just, here, I'll get a little bit of ink off, or watercolor off this. And I'll put a few little striations across there, like a little haze. Because it just doesn't look very integrated with the piece, just stark white. So let's see how this looks right here. I don't know if I can even see it. Okay, I can barely see it here. Let me go a little bit more. Okay, now, now this is going to have a very specific kind of directional, kind of patterning to it. I need to get it kind of nice and horizontal like that. Yeah, okay, that looks okay, but let's go a little bit more here. I'll do what been doing with the sun, and I'll transition it a little bit from darker up top like that. And then we'll go kind of bottom lit on the bottom. All right, so something like that there. Okay. I'll touch it up a little bit more if I need to after I adhere it to the top like that. So let's go with, I can put a little figure right here, right here. I'm looking right here. That might be a better location than like right over here. That looks like the natural spot for a little figure. I'm thinking like that little elk or something like that would be kind of cool in that location. Hello, Jen. Hope you're well. Thanks for jumping on. If I didn't say that already. All right, so, okay, now here's the thing. As I've been kind of fiddling around with that moon, this is kind of drying a little bit more. And I think I can hit this with a little bit more texture too, what I was talking about before. A lot of the things got, a little bit more mono value than I like. So I like to hit my darkest areas again. And just to kind of redefine the, kind of the variation within those areas. It's not really the contrast of it, but just hitting these darker peaks here with a little bit of a darker tone because they've gotten kind of washed out with the use of the water. So see, hitting that up there, and plus that darker area right here against that moon, it's going to create a little bit of a, a stronger contrast. And this area right here, from up here, it's like the same value. So I'm going to come up in here and I'll just make it a little bit darker. And then when you're doing these types of things, when you're making objects a little bit darker, or whatever degree is darker, okay? So if I make this area right here, let's say 5% darker on this side of this mountain, next to this area right here, by contrast, it looks that much lighter too, okay? So I'm not always doing things just to make some object darker, but I'm doing it to make the areas or objects around them that are lighter than them look lighter, because it makes it look like the lighting is coming from within the scene a little bit more. You just we're increasing the contrast between those darkest points in the scene and the lighter areas. So we don't always want a ton of contrast if it's like going to be something like the whole scene is just going to be like enveloped in mist or fog or something like that, where lighting is all kind of muted and uniform. But in most of my scenes, though, I do like to have a pretty decent range of values. Okay, it's not always white and black. It might be like a 10% gray to a 90% or something like that, but having a decent range like that just potentially can make a card seem a little bit richer when you're playing contrasts against one another. All right, so here we go, like this. Okay. And, is that dark enough? Let me try a little bit more of this blue in here too. Let me try something too. We have this moon here. It's kind of, it's a little bit blah. Let's add a little bit of temperature. Okay, so everything in here is kind of, it's grayscale and it's cool toned. Let's see if we can make that moon. I don't want a yellow moon, but I want a slightly warmer one. So let's go with this. I think this will do the flesh pink. So you make your moon real, a little bit more fleshy. I just want a little bit of a beige-ish, something with a little bit of yellow in it. Okay, so it's going to be barely that. I don't know if you'll be able to tell at all, but, or if I will be. Yeah, okay. So it's just kind of adding a little bit of a warm tinge to this. I don't know how it looks over the top of the white, but over the top of the gray, it gives that little gray streaking that I did in there just a little bit more temperature. So it's like a richer gray. So the gray, that boring gray, is a little bit more interesting to me now. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if you can tell. Let's say we can even tell in front of a white piece of paper. I don't know, you can see that. It just looks like now it looks like a smudgy moon. But this is what it'll look like in context right here. Okay. Maybe that's, I don't know, that line down in the middle. I'm going to fix that. Okay. Oh, I know what I can do. It's the white pigmenting that's going to bring that one around too. So I'll use that on there when we get to that. Okay. So Okay, so if that little warm moon is in there, if you want to, you can add a little tinge of, some warm touches in here. This is like super, super subtle. This flesh, I can barely see it. It's like right in front of me. I don't know if I'll add water to it or not. I might. One of my instructors used to say that some of the brightest colors or the warmest colors are in the shadow areas. So you can do some of that. This is such a pale tone, you can kind of go to town with it, it looks like here. All right, well, let me see if I could find my little tiny, tiny elk stamp. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking about doing right in here. It's going to be facing the other direction, but like something like this right here. I'm thinking lower. This one's a little bit too high, I think, right there. It would stand out really well, but I think this is more kind of, rule of thirds-ish right here. Like that. Let's go ahead and stamp this one out right now. I think this is the right size for it in relation to these trees right here. I was thinking the larger one might be a little bit bolder in here because this is a large piece of paper here, but I think the smallest one would be a little bit more in proportion with the other imagery, so let's do that. Okay, so Jen says the paper is the best paper in my opinion, especially for card making and scrapbooks. It's hosted by NAMTA now. Huh, okay. How do I say it? The North American something something association. What does the MT stand for? I prefer the virtual shows now, though. Oh. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so I was talking with someone yesterday that's a teacher that goes to those shows, and he was saying that the reason why people used to go to the shows were for the show specials. But he said everyone gives those show specials the week, whatever the week of the shows anyways now. So he said that they're not going to it. So when he went to the last one, I think that was in Las Vegas, he said there was hardly anyone there. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people used to spend a lot of money going to those shows. And if you can, you know what I mean? I mean, it's a business expense and kind of it's fun to go to, and, a little bit of a vacation too, but just the sheer amount of spent, when you can just, you can turn around and buy, spend that on product instead, these days, I don't know. I just don't know the, whatever the future is for the in-person shows going forward. Okay, I'm going to put this up here now. So let's see how this goes. The scene isn't like super dark. I might add a little bit more tone to it. I'm not sure. I should use glue with this instead of this little tape runner. I might reinforce this later around the edges, but let's see. Let's go like something like this. Okay, actually that's adhered pretty flat up there. Okay, now let's see if we can kind of unify this a little bit more. Now that I can kind of see the subject matter and stuff, this really stands out right now. I thought about doing one of those things where you just have something down there and you add the tone around it, and then you peel that thing, that little post-it note thing off of there, but I thought, this is going to be easier. And I don't know, like I said, that's what this is right here. This is just a little piece of, copy paper on this one that was stuck on there. It's a different scenario here. That other one's more graphic and stuff, but let's see about kind of bringing this, kind of fine tuning this a little bit more. Okay, so what I'm doing, see that little area up there is a little bit darker, so creating a little bit of a stronger vignette here. I call it tipping the edges. I don't know. It's just going for the tips, the corners, just to kind of, I don't know, it kind of frames things off, especially if these two areas right here get as dark as your darkest imagery. Now, I haven't been doing that on all my scenes because with the mystics pieces lately, because everything is so light, everything represents kind of clouds. So I haven't been going as dark as I normally do, if any, in creating this kind of closed area. But since this is a nighttime scenario, I don't know. I think that helps. Like even that little bit up there, I think that really helped that area up at the top, just to kind of cap it off a little bit more. All right, so just, kind of increasing the shadow areas of these other objects a little bit more so. And I'm still thinking, we need to come in here a little bit more, a lot more. Yeah, just some darker contrasts. That little elk has a little open area where it's to represent kind of lighting on its back. I'm going to hit it with the blue right in here and kind of incorporate it into the the entire color scheme and the landscape. Oftentimes animals, if you're out kind of walking around, unless they're, kind of a little bit more tame, but, going hiking and things like that in the mountains and deserts and things like that, a lot of times I don't even see the animal unless it moves. They're just so camouflaged. Like bighorn sheep in in rocks. Okay, so hitting this with a little bit more water. I do like that watercolory kind of texturing, especially for these, kind of mystic images that are kind of to represent kind of more of a, an ink wash type of painting. So kind of going along with that spirit, not in terms of with me dexterity and grace, but kind of in a pseudo, fumbling my way through, but it's good enough for me way. Okay, so let's see. I think that is about it with that, with the water colors and everything like that. Let's go back to some additional mist, and I'm trying to think if I want to add in some kind of, more fine-tuned highlights in here with my paint pen, my white paint pen, it's somewhere around here. Oh, here we go. Okay, we'll see if it needs it or not. I haven't been doing as much paint pen work on these kind of washy looking backgrounds, but I'm definitely using a lot of this. Okay, so white pigment ink, okay, and your cotton ball, 100% cotton ball. The synthetic ones don't work worth a darn, from what I've experienced, because they just kind of wick moisture. And okay, so what I'm looking at with this type of thing and adding this kind of misty, it already kind of looks misty in there, but I just think that this enhances it a little bit more, and kind of it develops this kind of this idea of this mist, something being suspended in the air in between the objects. Okay, so we can already kind of do that in here inherently by the way we handle medium, positive kind of applications, but adding this is kind of almost like going back and doing like a reverse mark in a way. I know it's building up on top of it, but it can make things look a little bit more translucent. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of enhancing areas where light meets darker. Okay. And I'm going to add some of it over the moon too, and hopefully that kind of creates a little bit more integration between that, that foreign object on here, and the rest of the paper right here. National Art Materials Trade Association, thank you. Which do you prefer to work with, watercolor pencils and water, or pencil crayons and Gamsol? I've never used the Gamsol, okay? When I'm using my colored pencils, I've heard of that Gamsol, and I know why people use it, right? But I've never done that before. I come from, I don't know, I totally, think that's a cool way to look, okay? But for me, I haven't used it yet because I come from a background where you use you use colored pencils purposely for the colored pencil textures that you get from it. So you're using colored pencils not on smooth cardstocks, but you're using colored pencils typically on textured papers, for specifically textural types of marks using that media. If it's traditionally, colored pencil artists, you want all of that grain within your, cross hatching and all that. So I don't know, when I first heard about that, I thought, oh, okay, but I just haven't done that before. So I don't know, on something like this, I don't know. What would you use for something like this? For something kind of muted, I would think that the watercolors might be able to give you kind of a more kind of washy ink, painting look. I'm guessing, but I don't know. Anyone else have answer to Sue's question here that has done both watercolor pencils or like ink tent sticks or something like that versus the Gamsol? Now the Gamsol, when you're using pencil crayons and Gamsol or colored pencils and Gamsol, is it pretty much recommended to use a specific type of surface for that? Or is everyone using matte cardstock or something like that for that? I don't even know. And Gamsol is just, are you applying that with a brush then too? Because I'd like to know that too. So that's a good question if someone has an answer for it. If we post that on place like Facebook and our stamp junkies or something like that, there's probably going to have a bunch of responses in there. But yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I guess one of the things is too, like I never heard about Gamsol, okay, and watercolors or wax sticks or something like that. But traditionally, okay, I don't think that was something that was utilized before. So I think that's something where, not that that's really matters, but from a traditional standpoint, I don't think that was like how colored pencils were, they were designed to do that. It was just something that came out later on that's like, oh, hey, this is cool. We can do these other things with this. As far as I know, you know what I mean? I don't know like a lot of, I didn't know a ton of water, colored pencil artists either. You know what I mean? I've seen it, I have an illustration background, and I just didn't know a ton of people using colored pencils in their work. It was on my list of supplies that I had to get as an art student, for probably just beginning drawing, maybe intermediate too. I'm not sure, but it wasn't used very much. We might have used the stuff, the colored pencils like once or twice or something like that in each class. Never in life drawing, but I never saw people using it with anything other than just the straight use of colored pencils, nothing else added to it, or manipulated in any other way. Okay, but that being said, so the watercolor medium is designed specifically for a, certain intended usage, in terms of that water solubility. So would one be kind of better than the other? I don't know. In terms of achieving certain types of effects, I'm not quite sure, but one would probably be, it's using it in its kind of traditional format versus, something that's, you know, been added later. Okay, so anyways, I don't know if you guys can see it. Does that look like it's glowing a little bit more, than before? What it did was it knocked it down. Like right here was a little bit darker. And what that did was it knocked it down probably like 50% in terms of, the darkness of it, or I don't know, 40 or something like that. So if you watch these videos before, you've seen me do this, but see, like these trees right here, this is an area that's light against something that's darker. If you put a little bit of tone across it like that, I don't want to go in too close because my camera starts going out of focus here, but just things look a little bit more kind of illuminated and three-dimensional when you have it like that, I guess. So right here, here's a darker branch and here's a lighter one. So we used to call this kind of like turning something in space. Is when you make something look like it's a little bit more three-dimensional from a two-dimensional surface. So when you're turning something in space, they're referring to a three-dimensional aspect of it, because we're all, a lot of things that we're doing. I mean, a lot of people are doing like 3D stuff, but a lot of times in card making, we're working on just a flat surface right here. So if you can give the illusion of dimension like that, it's kind of cool to do that. Like here's this elk here. I can put it in a little bit of the moonlight, or I can give it, a soft light around it like this. And I mention this all the time, but, people like soft lighting, right? Incandescent bulbs before, if you, I don't know when they started coming up, I don't remember like in the 70s, a light bulb called soft white, okay? When they started frosting bulbs and things like that. I think it was in the 80s, but then that's, later on, that's like all you can find in terms of incandescent bulbs, right? It was soft white lighting, and it's just a little bit more of an inviting type of light, okay? So from a textural standpoint, a little bit of white pigment ink like that in your pieces anywhere. It looks great over word stamps too. Like say if you have a word stamp that says something up here, and you put a little bit of that, if it's against white, like a background, you stamp it down there. If you put a little bit of white pigment ink over the top of it, it looks like lighting is hitting the tops of those words. So it's not just for landscape stamping or something like that. You can turn your objects in space and make them look more three-dimensional and make it look like they're being illuminated by soft light too. So kind of cool to do. And I have to say this every time I do this, and people that watch these videos getting sick of me hearing that, saying this, but uh, what if when you do this right here, I see I'm just going like right into my pad and like this, but my pad here is like super dry. It's like medium. It's like probably 20%, moist, as opposed to like a brand new pad at, like I say, 100%. But what you do is you have to really get this kind of into kind of a dry application, flatten it out like this, okay, so that you're not working with this big old frayed piece where it's like coming into contact in a different way and all wet and sopping wet with ink like that. And then when you start applying it, you're just doing it where just barely anything is being applied. It's more of like a soft powder approach, is applying it, like you're applying makeup to your piece right here or something like that, okay? Not makeup like cold pack cream or something like that on a clown, but, just kind of a softer, I don't know, whatever application. Like a dry application, like a powdered application is what you want to be, the sensibility of this, and application rate at which you're applying it, okay? So there's, if it's to represent mist, you don't want to be applying like a thick slathering of it down there, okay? Now, sometimes I do go like, I ink up quite a bit more if there's an area that just isn't getting light enough and it's in a light area and it's like, oh my God, I'm like tapping forever. Then, then I'll hit it with a thicker coat like that. But that's usually in the lighter areas, okay? And what you do is you just kind of transition it, into other areas or into the darkness like that, okay? But I think that should do it as far as that goes. It's not as dark as I was kind of thinking about, but I think there's some areas on here that are darker, and it's dark enough for me, It's I don't know. It's just like a really bright moon. It's the brightest moon of the year. Okay. Gamsol is a mineral spirit. Oh, okay. Oh, is that what it is? So if I was just to use mineral spirits, would that blend my colored pencils too? I used to use mineral spirits for my to clean my all my oil painting brushes and whatnot. Oh, and then you blend it with a blending stump. Oh, that's interesting. So that blending stump is paper, tightly wound up paper. Wouldn't that be, God, that would be really absorbing all of that mineral spirits, wouldn't it? Huh. Now see, listening to that like that, that does sound interesting to me because I loved blending things like, oil paints and things like that. I never worked in acrylics in my painting schooling years, but that, when I think about that, that does intrigue me a bit, in terms of the blends, maybe. Sometimes I wouldn't be going for so much blends, but I like contrasts. Okay, so I would, if I were, in theory, I'd have to see what it looks like in use, but the thing that I would do with things like colored pencils, these are the watercolor pencils, but if I was doing something where I'm getting kind of, textural forms like this, okay, using colored pencils like this, okay. I wouldn't use them like this, but I'm just saying, I'm getting textures, okay, doing these types of things, cross-hatching and whatnot. I would like to contrast, certain types of marks like that with, the smoother applications, because when those are played against one another and you retain some of both, then the smooth blended looks even smoother and blended, having the textural forms in here. And then the texture forms like that, that you've added in here with colored pencils will seem even more textural. So you're really playing the contrasts against one another, just like, light and dark, or whatever, warm and cool, but it would be like smooth and textured, blended and not blended, or something like that. So that would definitely intrigue me as far as that goes. One of the things I forgot, I grabbed this white pencil too. Okay, that's not working at all. I'm using this white pencil right here. I was kind of curious to know if I can go over it, but all this is doing is like when I go into the dark and I bring this down, all I'm doing is I'm dragging that black application of colored pencil in here. So this white colored pencil over the top of this watercolor pencil, I guess you can use this almost like a blending pencil or something like this. It's dragging all of my other colors, so it's not adding light on top of dark, it's just kind of blending everything a little bit more, dragging it out. Let's see. Okay, so use the blending stumps with the GAMS. It makes it look like watercolor effects. The colors are somewhat brighter. Okay. So, okay, wait. You know how using these pencils, or the Inktense ones, how you apply those and then you apply water and you make it more soluble. It makes those colors look brighter, right? Is the Gamsol and the watercolor, I mean, not the watercolor, the colored pencils, when you apply the Gamsol, it doesn't make the colored pencil ones look brighter, does it? It's just that those are just brighter colors to begin with, right? If it's the before and it makes the colored pencils brighter, that would be interesting to me. Like, I don't know, like the watercolor pencils too. It kind of blows my mind that adding water to it, seemingly diluting, makes it brighter. I don't know. I don't, it seems to be like contrary to what I would have thought. Glad you like it, Phyllis. Coming along here a little bit. So I wanted to do a moon scene, so this scene's a little bit darker than my other mystic kind of imagery explorations so far. Okay, so white paint pen. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this, but I think this is really helping it too with that. That's a really bright moon right there. So just adding those little touches up in here in these forms, I don't know. It makes it look like that moonlight is kind of reflecting off of these objects a little bit more. I gotta just make sure I don't go overboard with it. But if I do go overboard, with any of these highlights, I'm just gonna color it right back over. Just hit it with your watercolor pencil again. Or, you can take it take some tone like this and just dab into it. And one of the things, okay, being that I'm talking about that, is sometimes if you add, these little white dots in here, these little highlights like this, especially if it's in a darker area and it's like standing out too much to you, you can kind of stain the dots, okay? So you can have like a different color dot depending on, what you stain it with. So if I go over these little dots in here like that, now suddenly I have like a 5 or 10% gray dot in there that, you can stain the acrylic a little bit, which is kind of cool. I mean, you could, these pens come in like a big set, so I don't have it's not like Copic markers where you have there's 500 different gray tones or something like that. But, just in these little sets like this, actually this one's silver, not gray, but I don't know, there's a decent little range of gray tones or whatever color scheme you're working with. And that one's another silver too. I think they give you 2 silvers, but, you can add in darker highlights. It's always a highlight if it's going to be just lighter than what you're applying it to. So if you wanted some highlights right in here, but white would just be too stark of a contrast, you can add a gray highlight in there too. So yeah. Sam, I think it's glowing a little bit more with that with the that white pigment ink, which is always good. Um, a little bit of a stronger glow is never a bad thing. Okay, so hitting some areas in here. I've lost some of my form in here, which is fine because I needed to get darker anyways, but this is a way to go back in without kind of lighting the whole thing. Like even if it's like a couple dots like this in here, I don't know, can you see those little highlights right in here? So I add a few more in the lighter area, but see down here, it's like one dot, or in this rocket, there's like two dots right here. So when you look at it like that, see, otherwise it was like this in here, but see, those little types of things like that just make the forms, you know, that much more, you know, dimensional like that, you know, with that little specular light on it. Here's this foreground area, like so. I'm going to do another foreground object in this area down here. Originally, I was going to stamp my little subject matter on this area, but being that it got moved to the whatever the secondary distant location, it affords me the ability to add a little bit more down here. So let's see how that. I'm going to add in something really close here. All right, is someone, I don't know, does anyone here have like a, I don't know, Sue, or, you know, does anyone have a, like a Gamsol kind of example or gallery up anywhere, you know, that they posted on Facebook or anything like that, that we can see? I'm sure there's like examples up on the internet, but, or if we enter that into, you know, here on YouTube, there's probably going to be a, you know, 1,000 different examples of that, but we want to see ours, you know, here, you know, anyone here. Wear one of the vintage scrap girls. So when watching this, when looking at this, get one of your, you know, like that, those things that they give out, you know, when people are doing that tour of Niagara Falls, they put those rain jackets on, you know, the full rain jacket. Yeah, my waterfall came out. I like my waterfall better on this one, you know. This is the second time trying a waterfall here, so a little bit better this time. And one of the things about my other waterfalls too that I did the last time is like this. They were too wide. Like these ones up here should have been like this narrow, and which I could still do. I can close this off and just darken this in right here. It's a little bit harder now because there's a ton of this pigment ink all over the front of it right here, but I like this narrow one a little bit more, or I don't know, maybe a lot more. I made it too, you know, gushing. Okay, I'm inking this up quite a bit because I think my StazOn's getting a little bit dry. Okay, I'm going to use this portion of it. This bamboo is this size for a reason, just so I didn't have to do it in like two different, you know, stamp sizes. Because, see, if I go like this, the bamboo's like curling up, but if I use this side, if you rotate it around, it's at any angle that you want for whatever side of the, you know, the scene that you're using it in. I'm holding this down and pressing a little bit longer because I'm pressing over, you know, the top of all that watercolor, you know, paint and, you know, the brilliance ink that's on there. Okay, now this way, it's going to go like this here. Ink up more than you think you'll need. Okay. Now, I don't know how much of this I'm using, so I inked up like this portion, but I'm probably going to use about this much. But, you know, always ink up more than you think you're going to need, just so you don't stamp this out and it's like, oh my God, it didn't stamp out all over here because I didn't ink it up enough. And two, if you've inked up enough of it too, then, you know, you have more variation should you decide in that split second, between inking it up and putting it right here and deciding which, how you want it to go. You can change your mind still, so. All right, so see how that goes? That's a little bit open over here. So this is kind of closing off my edges here too and framing things off a little bit more. So I went kind of darker up here with tone, and then I'm just adding a darker element into these corners right in here, and it closes this in, and it directs the viewer's attention was going to go to that animal there anyway, because that's, people, will land on like living creatures in scenes really quickly. People are in a scene or whatever, but this just kind of frames it off a little bit more. And it kind of puts us kind of safely behind something to observe a creature in the distance that might be a little jittery. So it kind of, it puts us in kind of a little, I don't know, like a blind or something like that, where we don't have to worry about scaring it. Okay, so it goes something like that. All right. And I think that should be it. Whether or not I, went... Okay, so this is what this is about. Yeah, okay, so this one's like a lot. Yeah, it's quite a bit darker. I guess by contrast now, especially when I put this up next to it, it's a lot darker, like that. I should add a little tinge of something up there. I'll figure it out, though. I don't know if I'm going to do it right now, but see how this kind of transitions from dark to light down there? So if you do that same type of thing in different elements, it kind of brings a little bit of continuity to the, so you go dark, light, and it's going dark, light, dark, Well, this one's going from light to dark. But here, let me try to do this by hand a little bit more here. So I don't know when I'm going to get back to finishing this one off if I don't do it right now. Are any of you good at drawing craters? Or you can do the man in the moon here. Okay, so there's that. That's a little bit textural. Okay, I am going to have to hit that with some water because I can see it here right in front of me. It's a little bit too textural for the rest of the piece now. It doesn't kind of harmonize with the other texturing in here. I wasn't intending on doing too much of this moon, so I just did, this is just a piece of cheap copy paper, right here. So, I don't know. Well, I guess I can always do it on a better piece of paper and just pull this, remove this one and put a better one on there. But if I don't have to, I won't. All right, so there that goes. It's a little bit dimmer of a moon. I'll add a little bit of white pigment ink over the top of it again, though, just to smooth it out, with my for my feeble application of watercolor pencil. Watercolor pencils and like copy paper aren't a good combination, I'm finding here. So I can say that, about the media. I didn't know about the Gamsol, but the working on copy paper is not so great. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, that solves it. A little bit of white pigment ink to kind of obscure things that are happening within your scene. Um, it works wonders. So who said that about the Basil, being the best paper? That's the best paper, and like cheap copy paper, it's like one of the worst. Okay, so that is that. I'll throw this one. I'm finding what I like the combination of this gold foil right around here and just like a dark, that looks black, but it's like a super dark blue matting on here. I'm gonna do that on this one probably. This one does have those blues in it. You can see those blues in there without all that glare on there a little bit more, huh? Like that. You see that glowing blue in there? But at certain angles, okay, now I'm holding this up to the screen. Like even in front of me, this is kind of weird. And I see like a ton more blue in there. And I don't know. Maybe it was just at certain angles it didn't look so blue to me because of all the glare of my studio lights in here. I didn't realize that blue is like as strong as it is. I don't know. I might put a little bit of a blue border around here too, or something like that, as far as the card goes. But I think that is it. And I got to see what this piece or what these images can look like in a darker scenario like that. I guess that's dark enough right in there, But yeah. Okay, so hello, Vintage Scrap Girl. Oh yeah, I already responded to that one. Jen, I think that solved my moon there. You know. Okay, so this is like this little configuration right here with this, but I have been wondering. I want to do some pieces on different types of surfaces. So I've been just working with, for the most part, I don't think I've done a glossy cardstock yet, but it's all been the semi-gloss cardstock with these watercolor pencil types of touches on here. I did vellum before too, but I want to see some things, like this scenario with, on top of these types of papers right here, where we mute out some things. Maybe we can put like a white pigment ink moon up here, but I want to see like these whole areas in here, like shimmering with, with different colors based on different angles and whatnot. And I don't know, just stuff like that, and then that one using the colored pencils over the top of the Brilliance inks on this. But I want to see these things kind of jacked up, kind of, in an extreme version of I don't know, this composition, So I think things like the not where was it? Okay, like this one right here, like this type of holographic in here. I think this would look kind of interesting, down in this water area. So I'll have to figure out how to do that one, but I wouldn't do something this big here. I'd probably start off with like a quarter page or something like that. But I think that could be interesting with the mystic imagery and creating like a little bit of a, I don't know, kind of a rainbow holographic pathway. I don't have one here, but or have one in the line, but we'll have to do like this imagery in here with like a holographic and stamp like a horse in here and just hand draw like a little unicorn over the on its head or something like that. Might be kind of interesting with this imagery in here. So I don't know, little experiments like that should be cool. Or just like stuff like this too. So if we do, we put like a piece of paper down like that over the top of that holographic and then add the black right over the top of that. So the moon is the colored light type of thing. And then that moonlight is reflecting off of that water in the same holographic fashion, I think that would be really cool. So, it's the only different things to try out, but that's another one of those scenarios here. Maybe a bookmark, like that would be kind of cool. Like even that looks pretty cool, huh? if we did this like in this, kind of more narrow format here in a holographic, I think that could look really cool. Yeah. I'm saying that because I don't want to be adding in like like a whole, like a half, you know what I mean? Like a quarter of an re-inker for my brilliance pad on one scene, blocking out everything, around those holographic touches or something like that. I don't know. I'm thinking ahead here, so. But that's the type of thing that I'm thinking of when I'm doing this type of thing. Oftentimes it comes to mind like, oh, what would that look like in, that other paper that I'm using, or, what I mean, or have used on a different card before. And I don't know, that's the type of thing I want to get around to. Or even just something like simple like this, if you're using this scenario here and you have that moonlight up here, but you're doing it on a piece of, blue foil like this, for the moonlit scenario. I think that might look kind of cool too. So I don't know, a lot of different things to try out, but yeah. So I don't know. I got to, now that we're talking about the Gamsol and colored pencil things, I want to take a look at that and, with that stomps, I have those blending stomps, and I don't know. I haven't used them in, since my days in school, so I'll have to give that a try. Hello, Sharon. Good afternoon. Yeah. It's just, what time is it there for you guys? Is it super early morning over there? Is it like, it's not like, is it 8 or something? I forget what the time difference is for us. But good to have you. Good morning. Yeah, grab your cup of coffee or whatever you have in the morning there. I mean, when I've logged on at midnight at times for me here in Pacific Standard Time, sometimes I get people from Australia or whatever, or greetings from Sweden or something like that. I don't think it was Sweden, it was Denmark or something like that. Oh, it's 2:30. Okay, got it. Well, good afternoon to you. Thanks for checking it out here. We just finished this piece off right here, and so a little recap. This is my first kind of nighttime scenario here with the new line of imagery right here. So for me, it was just kind of seeing what these images looked like in a darker kind of format, because I wanted to see how dark I can get, but still retain this kind of illuminated, cloudy area. So I didn't know how dark I'd be able to go, because if you're going like way dark, you can't see the clouds anymore, So I think that, I don't know, I think that looks fine. When I was doing this at first, I thought, this is still way too light, but I think for this imagery it looks fine. If I had like this was an all like dark up here, and I just left that open light, I could put that, rising sun up there if I wanted to, or something like that, a sunset, or I don't know, whatever that would represent. And I think that still would look fine in here, but, making this area kind of tinted up here, I don't know, worked. And I think it helped me to go with that gray scale application before I went with my colored pencils, watercolor pencils, just to get things nice head start on the whatever the shading, blending work. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to just try it just straight with colored pencils and just see if I have it in me to blend those enough these days. I don't know. I'm working with that negative space now, like I said, and going in with a wet brush into the darker areas, and that seemed to be the technique that, it seems to be working okay for me at this stage of my, skill lacking watercolor, even brushwork in general, application techniques. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, Gina K would be a great, video channel to check out as far as the Gamsol. The Gamsol. So the Gamsol's a mineral spirits, though, too. Is there a difference between the Gamsol and mineral spirits, or is that just another name for it? There's a lot of things that I used to use in like oil paints and whatnot that I was shocked that I just don't see around anymore. Like I think I went looking for mineral spirits even, and I just could not find it somewhere. I don't know if I was looking online or whatever, but that's what we all used, back in our oil painting days. So, I don't know. Yeah. Hmm. All right, folks. Hope you have a great rest of whatever time it is for you. Evening. For me, it's 10:05. If there's anyone on EST, it's now 1 a.m. And Saturday Night Live, if that show is still on anymore, just got over. Sharon's, that's her post lunchtime time right now. All right, folks. Thanks for joining in. Hope to see you in the next live Stampscapes live. Okay, wait. Gamsol is just odorless mineral spirits. Oh. I'm trying to think if I even knew if Gamsol was even around. When I'm bringing all this up, this is like, like 30 years ago when I was in school. So I don't remember that. There was something called Gamma Sol, but not Gamsol. And I can't remember what Gamma Sol was for, but it was one of those other things that was in oil painting, I think. All right, everyone. Drop me a note if you have any comments or questions or whatnot, or if there's anything, add it to the comment section after I post the video here. It's like, hey, Kevin, go check out this link right here, for a great example of, whatever, anything that we went over today that I didn't know the answer to, which is a lot. But thanks for everyone else for, answering in terms of on all everything stamping. Basil, if they're still around, whatnot. So yeah, still the best paper for someone that posted there, and I think that was largely the sentiment back when they were big. That's for sure. Thanks everyone. Enjoyed the chat.